Hi guys, and welcome to another video from Stupid is the Norm, the channel where we demonstrate how to become a millionaire in 10 years whilst earning only minimum wage. And in this video I want to tell you how it is you're able to compress the time you've allotted to becoming wealthy into half the time. So I thought I'd start by telling you a little story. It's not my story, it's about Elon Musk. Elon Musk was telling the story, and he was saying that he was on the way back from, let's say it's place A, and going to place B in their company private jet. And they had a problem in destination C, and they were kicking around. I'm not sure what it was. I was trying to find it on Google, but I can't find it. But let's say it was servers. Let's say they had a massive building full of servers, and there was a problem with the temperature, and they need to fix it as soon as they could. So they were kicking it, the problem around on the plane on the way to destination B, and they come up with an idea. And Elon Musk said, "Well, okay, well, how long will it take to do?" And one of the guys said, "Oh, 6 months, maybe more." Elon has a bit of a think and then goes to the cockpit and says, "Captain, change your plans. We're going to destination C now. Turn us round, head there." So what they did, they got there and he ordered food, and then they got working on the problem. And by the morning come to work through the night, by the time the morning came, it was done. So we had 6 months plus worth of work done overnight, problem solved, back on the plane, back to destination B. And that's how these captains of industry, these unicorns, make so much money. It's because they work in a different time frame. We all have 50 years allotted work, from 18 to 68, but because they do so much work, because they work so much faster, because they compress the time it takes to do something into the smallest amount of space, they get about 5 times the life that we have. So they, instead of 50 years work, they get 250 years work. And if you know anything about compound interest, if you're in the game for 250 years, or the equivalent of 250 years, because you're doing so much work in that 50-year span, then it's going to have a massive impact on your wealth creating ability, and that's how they become wealthy. Take my own journey as a for instance. Would I have decided to take, voluntarily that is, 10 years to make $1 million, knowing the sacrifices I have to make if I had any choice? Or would I rather have spread it over 30 years? I think I was given the choice, I might have chosen the easier route. But because of my own stupidity and arrogance, I'd backed myself in a corner when I got to age 57, and I only had 10 years left. Retirement age for me is 67. So by whatever reason, me, as I said, my own stupidity and arrogance, I've had to compress the 30 years into 10 years, and that's how I'm able to do, hopefully, something extraordinary. And if you look back in history at the great achievers from hundreds of years ago, they did exactly the same thing. As an example, if you look at Alexander the Great, who conquered the known world at the time, was 32 when he died. It's amazing, isn't it? Genghis Khan, who conquered more places than Alexander the Great, was raising armies and conquering countries in his 20s. Julius Caesar was leading armies and conquered countries when he was 31. And it's all because they have to cram the time into such a small space. Particularly back then, they had the same reason as me. It wasn't stupidity or arrogance, it's because the mortality rate for anybody living about that time was 35-year-olds. So if you're going to make something of your life, you had to get going right from the get-go. So what's the point of this little ramble? Well, if you have a goal, and congratulations by the way if you do have a goal, because that will put you in the top 10% of the world's achievers just by having a goal. 90% of people don't have a goal, that's why they don't achieve anything. But if you have a goal, it will certainly have a timeline. So a little thought experiment. What I want you to do is look at the timeline and half it. And then again, a thought experiment, go to a nice bar, sit with a pint and kick it around. What would you have to do in order to compress that timeline down to half the time you've currently allotted to it? Because if you do that, you're going to have to behave in a very different way. You're going to have to act in a very different way. You're going to have to do very different things. And once you've worked out how you would do it, you then have to ask yourself the big question: am I willing to make the sacrifices necessary to bring it into fruition? Because if you are, you could become wealthier than you imagine you could be in half the time you've allotted to it. Don't be stupid and don't be normal, guys.